The Blood, 8 levels of the Albanian Mafia. You're 17 years old. You're sitting in the driver's seat of a car on a dark street in northern Albania. The engine is running. In the trunk behind you, something. You don't know what. You didn't ask. You're going to drive to an address, drop it off, come back, and you're going to get paid 500 euros, more than your father makes in a month. Here's the thing. Nobody forced you into this car. Nobody recruited you. Nobody threatened you. Nobody handed you a gun and said, now you're one of us. You chose this. Except, you didn't. Not really. Your grandfather chose it 40 years ago, in the mountains, with a promise he never kept. And that promise has been waiting for you ever since. Level 1. The soldier, the inheritance. There is a word in Albanian with no true translation in any other language. Besa. The closest English gets is word of honor. But that's not it. The kanun, the ancient code of customary law that has governed these mountains since the 15th century, calls Besa the highest authority. Not the king, not the church, not the courts, the Besa. One rule above all others: what is promised must be done. No exceptions, no extensions, no mercy for circumstances. And a Besa doesn't expire. It passes through the blood, to the sons, to the grandsons, until the obligation is fulfilled. Your grandfather's was never fulfilled, which means it passed to your father, which means now it's yours. You live in Shkodër, where the mountains press right against the streets, and the government has never really functioned, and the kanun still means more than anything written in a parliament building in Tirana. One afternoon, your cousin takes you to a basement in the old city. 6 men at a table. One of them is your uncle. Nobody introduces you. Nobody explains. Your uncle looks across the table, gives one slow nod. You drive that night. You come back the next night. Nobody made you. The blood already decided. Level 2. The captain. The oath. You're 22 now. 5 years of proving yourself. 2 police stops. 1 arrest that went nowhere because you had nothing on you and nothing to say. Your uncle sits across from you at a kitchen table. A glass of Reiki between you. The Albanian brandy distilled from grapes in the north. The drink of oaths and funerals and agreements between men. He raises it. You raise yours. You drink. No written contract. No titles exchanged. Just an understanding, shared in a kitchen that smells like tobacco and coffee, of what this moment means. The kanun is precise about how Besa is given. Always the right hand, never the left. The left hand takes and does not give. You shook with your right. Everyone saw it. You are now a captain. 10 men under you. A territory in Tirana. A shopkeeper falls 3 weeks behind on his payment. You send 2 men. They don't touch him. They stand in his doorway for 4 hours in total silence until he understands. He pays by evening. Europol will later describe your organization as lacking clear hierarchy. That description is wrong. The hierarchy is the family. The ranks exist without paper because they don't need paper. Everyone knows where they stand without being told. That's not disorganized. That's something law enforcement has been unable to crack for 30 years. Level 3. The port master. The pipeline. You're 28. 3 men fly in from Rotterdam. By the time they land, you understand that everything before this was preparation. Here's how European cocaine actually works. Colombia and Ecuador produce it. It moves by container ship to Rotterdam, Antwerp, Hamburg, 3 of the biggest cargo ports on Earth. Millions of containers every year. Customs inspects maybe 3%. The other 97 moves on paperwork alone. For years, Italian organizations controlled European wholesale cocaine. Albanian clans were muscle, subordinate, junior partners collecting a fraction of the value. Then Albanian bosses made a different calculation. Why pay the Italians? Fly to Medellin, sit with the Colombians, make Besa directly, cut everyone out, control the whole chain from source to street. The Colombians agreed, preferred it. The Albanians were reliable, paid on time, didn't talk. In a business where trust is the only currency that matters, Albanian Besa was worth more than any other organization's contract. By 2023, Europol estimates Albanian networks supply more than 50% of all cocaine in Europe. Built in under a decade, the Ndrangheta, the Camorra, the Russian Bratva, all surpassed. By a country of 3 million people. Level 4. The cleaner. The flying money. You studied economics in Italy, real scholarship, real degree. You came home and your family had a different use for what you learned. The primary method is called fei chien, flying money, a Chinese underground banking system from the Tang dynasty, built not to hide money, but to move value along the Silk Road without transporting physical cash. A man in Amsterdam gives you a code. A man in Tirana releases equivalent funds. The money never moved, only the value moved. No paper trail, no bank record. An Albanian fruit and vegetable company in Tirana handles some of the physical cash. A banana container arriving in Antwerp. 4 million euros washed through apartments on the Adriatic coast. On paper, legitimate. In practice, the proceeds of cocaine shipped beneath produce from Ecuador. A man who worked for the network was arrested in Belgium. He knew 2 names. He served 14 years without saying either. His family received monthly payments while he was inside. His children's school fees were covered. His besa was honored because yours was. That is how the machine sustains itself. Level 5. The Enforcer. The Gjak Maria. I want you to meet someone. A Vice documentary crew managed to interview a cocaine smuggler who worked for an Albanian network in London. Face hidden, voice distorted. This is what he said on camera, word for word. My brother is dead. They shot him 13 times. 2 years ago, they killed my friend, and they killed his wife with a stone. Once you break Bisa, you have to die. Pause on that. His brother. 13 times. Then he said, and I still work for them. That last sentence is the whole architecture. You cannot leave. You cannot talk. You cannot disappear into a life that doesn't know your name. Because your name is your family's name. And your family is in a village in northern Albania where the Kanun has governed disputes since before the Ottoman Empire arrived. FBI agent Jim Farley spent 4 years trying to infiltrate a 26-member Albanian gang in New Jersey. He described the fundamental problem. With Italian-American Mafia, you can connect as regular guys. Baseball, dinner. With Albanians, there's no thread to pull. Because the weak link's weakness is his family, and his family is unreachable. The Kanun calls it Gjak Maraja, blood-taking, koka per koka, head for a head. You are the reason the besa holds. You have never been photographed by law enforcement. Level 6, the European commander, the invisible hand. You're 39, British residency, Kensington flat, Range Rover registered to a company registered to a company. You manage operations across 5 countries. You don't touch product. You don't move cash directly. You coordinate. Every link in the chain knows only the 2 links adjacent to it. British law enforcement calls Albanian criminal networks the invisible hand. The most sophisticated expression of this structure was an organization called Compania Bello. 14 Albanian clans, 1 group for South American negotiations, 1 for port extraction, 1 for warehousing, 1 for distribution, 1 for laundering, each connected to the others through besa, not contracts. And its leader was a man named Driton Rexhepi. He was operating from a prison cell in Ecuador, not metaphorically, literally. Arrested in 2014, convicted, serving time, and from inside Cotopaxi Detention Center, using a hidden mobile phone, he was negotiating multi-ton cocaine shipments with Colombian suppliers, directing financial operations across Europe, and ordering reprisal attacks against rivals. Italian prosecutors called him the undisputed capo, with access to infinite amounts of cocaine. He had escaped from prison 3 times before Ecuador. Albania, Italy, Belgium, 3 countries, 3 escapes. Think about that. A man inside a foreign prison, cut off from everything, running a continent-spanning empire through a smuggled phone and a network of people who would die before they broke their word to him. The besa is stronger than the walls. Level 7, the boss, the 15 families. You control a significant portion of Europe's cocaine supply from a house in Tirana with no distinguishing features from the street. Law enforcement calls them the 15 families, the northern Albanian clans that together run drug wholesale across the continent. No single godfather, no organizational chart, no annual meeting, coordination through BISA alone. You've never used Sky ECC. You stopped before police started investigating it. You use no platform for more than 4 months. You meet in person. You speak Albanian, sometimes in the northern Geg dialect that even a professional interpreter from Tirana struggles to follow. You trust people. You trust blood. One evening your son, 19 years old enough to understand some things, asks you whether the besa is real, whether men actually believe it, or whether it's just fear dressed up as tradition. You think about your grandfather, about the obligation that was never fulfilled, about the night you drove a car at 17 and didn't ask what was in the trunk. You tell him, the besa is more real than the law. The law is paper. The besa is blood. He nods. He already knew. He just needed to hear you say it. Level 8, the hunted. This is where the story is right now. 2020. Operation Los Blancos. 5 years, 10 countries, dismantles Compania Bello. 20 arrests, 4 tons seized. Recep keeps running operations from his cell anyway. August 2025. Europol coordinates 10 more arrests across 4 countries. The group leader had made $40 million from a single shipment. He had been wanted for a murder committed 17 years earlier. Still free, still operating. November 2025. One Albanian clan hires mercenaries to abduct the leader of a rival. February 2026. Italian police uncover connections running since 2016. Heroin and cocaine through the Balkans, Northern Europe, South America, and Southern Italy. Covered by a fruit and vegetable company. Albania is currently in EU accession talks. The European Commission says the country has made unprecedented progress. The machine built not from desperation alone, but from a code of blood and sacred promises 600 years old that survived Ottoman occupation, communist dictatorship, civil war, and 3 decades of Western law enforcement. That machine runs through every major city in Europe, through the port of Rotterdam, through a kitchen table and a glass of Reiki, through a promise no court in the world can produce as evidence because it was never written down. It is not losing. Right now, in a basement in Shkodër, a 17-year-old boy is sitting across from his uncle. There's a glass of Reiki between them. The uncle raises it. The boy raises his. He doesn't know yet about the cocaine czar running an empire from a prison cell, about 12 tons hidden beneath bananas in Antwerp, about the man whose brother was shot 13 times, and who still showed up to work. The machine doesn't need him to know any of that. It just needs him to pick up the glass. Skiptaret vdeshin, de bessen nuk ishkellen. Albanians would die before they violate Besa. The Kanun has 1,262 articles. This is all of them. One more generation.